Good day everyone. This video is all about the discussion of LEA 104, Law Enforcement Operations and Planning with Crime Mapping. Now, let's proceed to Police Operational Procedures. Rule number 5, Inter-Unit Coordination. Inter-unit coordination is important to police operational work because when police fail to coordinate their activities and insufficient, crimes and their detection and prosecution can slip through organizational cracks. That's why we have personal coordination or by official representative, coordination by filing coordination form, coordination by practical available means of communication. Rule number 6. Requirements of police operations. Basic requirements. Police operations like arrest, search and seizure, checkpoint, roadblocks, demolitions, and civil disturbance managed shall be conducted as follows. With a marked police vehicle, led by a police commission officer, and with personnel in prescribed police uniform. Next is use of megaphones and similar instruments. The use of megaphones is to warn or influence the offenders or suspects to stop and peacefully give up. And last, warning shots prohibited. The police shall not use warning shots during police intervention operations because due to the concern that warning shot may be misplaced and result in an intended injury or death to a suspect. Rule number 7. Use of force during police operations. 7.1. Use of excessive force prohibited. The excessive use of force during police operation is prohibited. However, in the lawful performance of duty, a police officer may use necessary force to accomplish his mandated task of enforcing the law and maintaining peace and order. 7.2. Issuance of verbal warning. The police officer must first issue a verbal warning before he could use force against an offender. As far as practicable, the verbal warning shall be in the dialect that is known, the offender, or in the national language. 7.3. Non-issuance of verbal warning. When excusable, the failure to issue a verbal warning is excusable in cases where threat to life or property is already imminent, and there is no other option but to use force to subdue the offender. 7.4. Use of non-lethal weapon. When suspect is violent or threatening and that less physical measures have been tried and deemed inappropriate, a more extreme but non-deadly measure can be used. 7.5. Application of necessary and reasonable force. During confrontation with an armed offender, only such necessary and reasonable force should be applied as would be sufficient to overcome the resistance put up by the offender. 7.6. Factors to consider in the reasonableness of the force employed. The reasonableness of the force employed will depend upon the number of aggressors, nature and characteristics of the weapon used, physical condition, size and other circumstances to include the place and occasion of the assault. The police officer is given the sound discretion to consider these factors in employing reasonable force. 7.7. Responsibility of the police officer in charge of the operations. The police officer who is in charge of the operation shall at all times exercise control over all police personnel in the area of operation, and shall exhaust all possible means to apply the necessary and reasonable force to protect lives and properties during armed confrontation. Rule number 8. Use of firearm during police operations. 8.1 Use of firearm when justified. The use of firearm is justified if the offender poses imminent danger of causing death or injury to the police officer or other persons. 8.2 Firing at moving vehicle, prohibited but with exceptions. A moving vehicle shall not be fired upon except when its occupant pose imminent danger of causing death or injury to the police officer or any other person. 8.3 Parameters to be considered in firing at moving vehicles. A. The intent of the suspects to harm the police officer or other persons. B. The capability of the suspects to harm with certainty the police officer or other persons. And last, accessibility or the proximity of the suspects from the police officer and other persons.
8.4 Filing of an incident report after the use of firearm.
A police officer who fires his service firearm or weapon during a confrontation with an offender or offenders must submit an incident report outlining the circumstances necessitating the use of his firearm. 8.5 Procedure after an armed confrontation. Immediately after an armed confrontation, the officer who is in charge of the operation shall secure the site of confrontation, take photographs, check whether the situation still poses with imminent danger, evacuate the wounded to the nearest hospital, ensure that all persons who died on the spot are not moved from their original position. Arrested suspects should be kept in isolation. Conduct debriefing on all involved PNP operatives. Submit after operations report. And last, ensure psychological stress counseling for all involved PNP operatives.